Hi, welcome back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the sides of the object here. We have a lot of work to do right there and a lot of details to flesh out, so let's go ahead and let's get started. First thing is I've been working on the front area here, which I'm pretty much done with. So what I need to do is unhide the area that I hid before. If you remember in previous videos, I'm going to hit 8 on the keyboard to open up the Explorer view here. And the main body here, which has the little yellow H, is hidden, so I'm going to hit H to unhide it. And here we go. This is the main body I have to work with. We're going to work with the right side over here, okay? And that's going to use the right view that's down here, viewport D that I set up earlier, okay? And what I'm going to do here is just go ahead and set this up. So how am I going to go ahead and set this up? Well, I'm going to make a couple of cuts here using the knife tool. So I'm going to pull up the knife tool. Again, you can reach that by going to the Modify menu, Polymesh, and getting the knife tool that's over here. There it is, the knife tool, the open bracket key. I'm going to make myself a cut somewhere back here. Hold down Shift to make a straight cut. I'm also going to make a cut somewhere over here. Hold down Shift right there to make a straight cut. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select this new polygon that I have here. I'm going to reuse the knife tool again. And this time I'm going to make a cut maybe about just above this area right here. And if you're not sure what area I'm talking about, if I pull up some reference image, here we go, this is the right side view. You can see right here we have this sort of panel that's indented into the metal, and when we have these little kind of grills of holes right here that you can see into the object, okay? So what we're going to try to do is make this area for this panel that's indented here, and then we'll work on the holes. So that's why I'm setting up these cuts down here for this object. So I'll select this polygon that's right here. I'm going to make a cut just outside. Okay, once I do that, what I'm going to do is select this new polygon that I basically have created right here. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to inset it. And I'll reduce that inset a little bit. Something like this looks pretty good. That matches up with the image pretty close. Okay, right. Once I do that, I'm going to go over here to my camera view. I'm going to hit Control D to extrude, and I'm going to push this extrusion in just a little bit like this, okay? Just like the real thing. Then I'm going to go to Edge Mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this little edge right there in the corner. Alt and middle mouse button, click on that edge right there, and you should have all of these little corner edges that are down here, okay? So those 4 corner edges on the inside of that indentation piece. What I'm going to do next is Bevel. And I'm going to give this about maybe 6 or 7 subdivisions for the rounding. Now for the actual rounding, I could see how the image has this kind of sharper rounding than what I have. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust my PPG here to match with the image pretty close. Doesn't have to be totally exact, but as you can see, this is pretty darn close here. So what I'm going to do next is go back here to my camera view. And now to make this look a lot nicer, what I'm going to do is, here's a pretty easy way of doing this. I'm going to go to Polygon Mode, select this polygon that's in the middle of that panel, okay? I'm going to go to my Context menu and go to Select Adjacent and choose Edges. That way I select the edges that are that belong to that panel. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bevel to soften this up a bit. So I'll use the bevel tool here to give this plenty of rounding. Maybe about 5 or 6 divisions looks pretty good. When I come in here, basically what I have is a very nice kind of soft area right there. I don't want to give this too much rounding. I think I'll go with the default value of 0.5 for the distance. Looks pretty good. Okay, you should end up with something that looks like this. Okay, if you do some render regions and check it out. Now if you end up with some strange shading, I don't know if you can see this in the video or not, but it's very obvious there's very strange shading here. We have like kind of this line that goes here. The normals just have to get fixed here. So to do that is actually pretty easy. I'm going to select this polygon again, then I'm going to right click and go to Select Adjacent and pick the edges. And with those edges selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to Mark Hard Edge Vertex down here. I'm going to click on that, a PPG pops up, go ahead and close it. And now that strange rendering problem is gone because I fixed the normals there for the edges. Alright, now let's set up the area that we're going to need for the actual holes, because if we look at the reference image, we can see we have these holes here. So what I have to do is set up some geometry for those holes. So it's going to be a pretty simple process, not as complicated as you might think. Okay, what I'm going to do is select this polygon, the one that's in the panel right there, and I'm going to use the knife tool again. That knife tool is just, I'm going to make a cut about right here, and another cut on the opposite side about right there, just outside of the holes in the image. Okay, select this polygon that we have here, select the knife tool again, and I'm using the shortcut again, which is the open bracket key. Okay, select this new big square polygon that we have right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to inset the polygons. Inset it a small amount. Basically just try to get the polygon here, the new inset polygon we created, to kind of outline and border the little holes in the image. Okay, once you do that, make sure that polygon is selected, go to your context menu, and now we're going to go to the Subdivide Polygons command down here. Okay, click on that, and you're going to see your polygon that gets cut up into 4 pieces, kind of like a pie or something. And over here we have a PPG that pops up. What we want to do is leave the type at plus, and the iterations we want to increase that by quite a bit. I'm going to go for about maybe 4 iterations. So I'm going to close the PPG at about 4 subdivisions, and basically I end up dicing that polygon or slicing it up into all of these little subdivisions, all of these little polygons here. It kind of looks like a chessboard or something like that. Now with that done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to Inset Polygons, and the PPG is very important. Do not close the PPG just yet. What I want to do is I want to control a couple of key options. The main option here is the merge option down here, which is on by default. So uncheck it. Okay, now it looks like we have a big mess, but that's okay. That's because the inset amount is set too high. It's at 0.2. So I'm just going to go ahead and very carefully drag this back to something like this. For me, about 0.02 looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to go with that. I'm going to close the PPG, go back to my camera view here, my 3D view. Okay, and you should basically still have all these polygons selected. Make sure you have all these polygons still selected. If you deselected them by accident, go ahead and hit Control Z to undo. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hit Control D to go ahead and extrude this, and I'm going to extrude it into the model just a little bit, just a hair, okay, about a little millimeter there. Then I'm going to hit Control D to extrude one more time, and I'm going to push this in a little bit. Something like this looks pretty good. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just delete those polygons because we don't need them. Remember, those are holes that we can see into the computer case. Alright? Now we have square holes. In the image, however, what we have is round holes. That could be a problem. Not really. I'm going to show you how to fix that later. Right now I'm going to set up the area for the other holes over here. These tall vertical ones that are on this side over here. So it's the same basic technique. So I'm going to select this polygon over here. I'm going to use the knife tool again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut. I'm going to make a cut right about, let me see where I want to make this cut. I'm going to make a cut over here on this side, like this. And then over here, I'm not going to make a cut vertically like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this new polygon that I have here, that I just cut up. I'm going to use the knife tool again. And I'm going to make a cut that's going to be below this area. See this area here where we have the bevel and we have all of these blue points? I don't want to cut into that area. Mainly because I don't want to mess that area up. I don't want to make a sort of messy type of area. So I'm going to leave that alone. What I'm going to do is make a cut just below that little curvature right there, which is just going to make my life a lot easier. I'm going to select this polygon again. Use the cut tool again. I'm going to make a cut down here. Now this polygon here is perfect. It's ready to go for the holes. Now I know that it's not matching up with the holes perfectly, simply because I don't want to mess up this area with the curvature, so I'm just going to take the easy route and just get this done. So what I'm going to do now is, if I go over here and I use the Subdivide Polygons command like we did before, actually what we need to do is inset first. Sorry about that, we need to inset first before we use the subdivide. So I'm going to inset about this much. Looks pretty good. Now there is a problem. The problem is that this edge over here is blue right now. See that? It's blue. It's marked as a hard edge. That could cause problems for me later down the road when I start to make these holes round. So what I need to do is I need to get that edge to be yellow again like the other ones. In other words, I need it to not be a hard edge, marked as a hard edge. The reason it's marked as a hard edge is because that edge is deriving from this edge over here, which is marked as a hard edge as well. So it inherits that property. So to fix that, I'll select that edge, I'll go to my context menu, and I'll click on the same command we used before, the mark hard edge vertex command. I'll click on that, a PPG pops up. Now the only parameter we have is the one that says hard. Go ahead and uncheck that. And there we go. Our edge there is fixed. Now it's yellow like all its friends. Okay, good. So now let's select that polygon. And now if we use the subdivide command, subdivide polygons, we're going to end up with something that looks like this. At first glance, it may look correct, but it's actually not. This is incorrect. The reason it's incorrect is because what I need is little square holes. These rectangular polygons are going to result in rectangular, tall, skinny, vertical type holes. So I'm going to undo real quick. So I need to get squares. How can I get squares? Pretty easy. I'm going to select the two edges there for this polygon. Okay. I'm going to go to subdivide edges evenly. I'm going to make myself maybe about, I don't know, looks like maybe 6 subdivision looks pretty good. I'll go with something like that. Then I'm going to select all the edges here, basically from the top one to the bottom one right there. And I'll subdivide those evenly, maybe a couple of times like this. So we end up with basically these polygons here that look more like squares rather than rectangles, so they're not all stretched out. So I'm going to select all those polygons. Okay, it looks kind of like we're playing Tetris or something. And with all these polygons selected, now what I'll do is I'll subdivide. And I'll subdivide this maybe about 2 times. Yeah, 2 times looks pretty good. 2 looks like it's going to work out fine. Now if all those polygons still selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to inset them. So go to the context menu, use the Inset Polygons command. Again, uncheck merge. Same thing that we did previously with the other holes. I'm going to use a setting, something like this. About 0.02 seems to work out pretty good when I do this kind of stuff. Okay, so let me go to my camera view here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to Control D to extrude. Remember that? Same process we did on the other holes. I'm going to extrude into the model a hair, just a little bit. Then I'm going to hit Control D to extrude again. I'm going to pull these in a little bit more, like this. And then I'm going to delete those polygons. And there we go. We have our areas or our sections here ready to go for our holes. Right now they're squarish though, which doesn't look very good. So what we need to do is we need to make them round. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to end this video here, and in the next one we're going to go ahead and see how we can make these things round and look nicer and closer to the image.